Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. My name is Kia Chu, and I'm from the marketing team here at Litmos. Thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules today to join us. We're very excited today to partner with Sage People to present to you today's topic, Train and Retain, 5 important reasons to integrate automated learning with your HR system. First off, I wanted to start off quickly by just covering a few quick housekeeping items. We will be recording this webinar and sharing it with all attendees within the next week or so. Feel free to forward this along to your colleagues. We want to keep this an interactive experience for you all. We'll be launching a poll as well as accepting questions throughout the webinar. To ask a question, please do so in the GoToWebinar panel under questions. We will try our best to answer as many of the questions at the end of the webinar, but depending on time, we will make sure to follow up with any unanswered questions after the webinar. We are very excited today to have Keith Haas-Ellison, Senior Solution Consultant at Sage People, and Peter Cizik, VP of Corporate Business Development here at Litmos. I'll now hand it over to Peter to get us kicked off.
Thanks, Kia, and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning, or if you're on the other side of the pond this afternoon. So just a quick overview of the agenda that we'll be stepping through today. Keith and I will be spending just a few short minutes going through an overview of our respective solutions that we have to offer and some thought leadership on how to think about these things. Then we'll dive into the 5 reasons of the value of using a learning management system in combination with an HR system. And then we'll wrap it up with a few words about the partnership between Litmos and Sage People and some of the roadmap ideas that we have going forward. But before we go to that, I'd like to launch a quick poll just to understand who's in the audience. The more that we can get a sense of where people are coming from, that will help Keith and I kind of fine-tune the conversation today so that we can address probably what we feel is the needs of everybody. So it looks like we've got some results. So we've got quite a mix. We've got, it looks like 18% HCM, 42% on LMS, 27 on both, and there's still a few that just have neither, so that's great. That's a great mix, and I appreciate everybody giving us that sense. So I think this presentation, I think, should really resonate with a number of you as we go through it. So just again, just a few words on Litmos. So Litmos is a real robust solution that has evolved over the years. So at our core is a learning management system. It's very simple, easy to use, very scalable. We've expanded and extended that solution over time with additional components. We have a content library, prepackaged content, over 1,500 learning resources in that library today, and it's growing every day. We recently announced an acquisition just a few weeks ago with a company in the UK, Learning Heroes, that is really helping us expand the reach of that content. We also have a platform that we call Training Operations. That's for the extended enterprise, and those are for organizations that are looking to build a business around selling training, and that's a very robust platform that powers multi-million-dollar businesses today. So Litmos is really extending the solution that we can provide various organizations, from small 150-person organizations up to organizations that have tens of thousands of users and everything in between. We're also very mobile friendly, which is really the direction that learning is going in general. You have to appeal to any internet connected device that's out there, and mobile is an important part of that. In the last 5 years, we've really been growing from a weed. When we first started, probably in the 2010 timeframe, we had just a few thousand users on the platform. Fast forward to today, we've got over 5 million users on the platform, and that's growing exponentially as we go. As a result, we're in use by over 40% of the Fortune 1000. We have a very broad reach across many different market segments, many different sizes of companies, and that's the beauty of the simplicity of the platform. Out of the box, you can use it without a whole lot of customization, but it's got all the bells and whistles and features to allow you to customize it to your unique experience. 30 million courses taken. Obviously, that number is growing by the day. And number one in customer satisfaction. This is important. I can talk all day long about how great we are, but at the end of the day, it's the customers that count. And that's why I like to show this slide. Thought leaders like Brandon Hall and Gartner have given us awards over the years. One I'd like to call out specifically is the G2 Crowd one. That's an award that you can only get based on customer satisfaction ratings from our customer base. We talk about, a lot of companies talk about being customer driven, but at the end of the day, it's, you know, if customers vote with their feet, vote with their ratings on areas like G2 Crowd, that's what we're really proud of, because those are hard fought awards and really helps reinforce what we've been trying to do over the years. And now I'm going to hand it over to Keith.
Thank you very much, Peter. Let me add my welcome. Good afternoon, good morning to everyone on the call today. I want to start with what is Sage People. And so Sage People is really an HR and people system. It's designed from the ground up for the mid-size enterprise. Sage People is an end-to-end applicant to alumni solution that really supports the entire employment life cycle. And we like to remind our audience that Sage People takes really a mobile-first approach. It's available on any device, from anywhere, at any time. And this includes the moment that a candidate applies for an open position to managing folks that are leaving the organization. Our key capabilities, and if we start at about 2 o'clock on the wheel, include talent acquisition in terms of recruiting, selection, onboarding, core people management, attendance and leave management, compensation and benefits, performance management, talent development, and of course, HR and people analytics. And all this is wrapped with a workforce experience layer that provides really a unique set of capabilities for better engaging your workforce. Sage People, like Litmos, runs on the Salesforce App Cloud, and that really is the world's most trusted and secure cloud platform. And finally, like Litmos and like Peter mentioned earlier, we really do have a world-class customers for life team. We work closely with you. We want to ensure your success. It starts with initial discovery workshops. It goes through to rapid implementation. We have training, ongoing support, customer success teams, all with the hope that, or all with the design of ensuring that you're getting value from your investment. Peter, next slide, please. So why Sage People? Building a business is challenging. The world of business is changing. We're 24/7. We're global. Our workforce is diverse. Our people are multicultural, multi-generational, multi-skilled. And that's not to mention the rise of contingent workforce and the gig economy. Some studies, in fact, suggest that 30 to 50% of the workforce may be freelancers or contractors in the next 5 years. We also have a global skills crisis, and really the war for talent is driven by ongoing technology changes and of course the digital economy. And what this is doing is creating a need for companies to rethink how they attract, how they recruit, how they manage, and how they develop their workforce. Next slide, please. So specifically, what does it mean? It means there's a new transformational change occurring across organizations. I'm old enough to remember the days of personnel, and I remember that change to HR. And this new change is the change to people. HR is becoming increasingly automated, less transactional. New applications are being developed that use augmented intelligence, like voice activation to book time off or requesting information. You know, I, in fact, helped deliver a proof of concept last month at HR Tech World in San Francisco, where we demonstrated interacting with Sage People through Amazon Alexa, and it was very well received. People science. People science is replacing that gut feel and the use of spreadsheets to manage people based on facts and data. Similar to how data science is used in analyzing customers and financial and operational information. Recruitment processes, they're still very manual. They're being replaced by more proactive marketing processes with the idea of delivering great candidate experiences. Older HR systems, which were only occasionally used by the workforce, are now being replaced by HR and people systems. On-demand access spans the entire company. And these solutions include a combination of people data, business content, and communications. Annual performance reviews and appraisals are being replaced by continuous conversation with peer recognition, with social shout-outs by colleagues across the organization. Periodic training is being replaced by continuous, self-paced, and social learning. So, like with Litmos, if you need to know something, you search for it or you watch a video on demand. And finally, leading these changes is a new role, the Chief People Officer, really the tip of the spear in the emergence of a people company. Peter, next slide, please. And so what makes for a people company? I think a people company can be defined by a series of attributes. Research suggests that faster growth can result in organizations that not only manage, but engage their people. So a people company recognizes that people are its most valuable asset, that its success depends on its people being successful. People decisions are based on data rather than gut feel, and the workforce is engaged, they're motivated, they're empowered, and therefore more productive. As a result, you become known as a good employer, a great place to work, and now attracting and retaining talent is easier. And finally, they're redesigning processes to support the culture that's necessary for success. Peter, over to you.
Great. Thank you, Keith. So those are some great items, and I think that's a theme that you'll see as we progress through the various reasons. But let's start off with what are the gaps? What are we trying to fix? None of this is going to be new news to anybody on the phone. Systems don't interconnect. The data isn't shared. So what's the result? Well, you're either re-entering that information in multiple systems, and you get all the errors that happen when you do that, or it's too overwhelming and it doesn't happen, and so you've got all these information silos that have data duplication, the data doesn't tie, there's no single unified view of the employee, going back to a comment that Keith made earlier. Then it's just a layering effect. So what happens now? Higher administrative costs. Throw more resources at the problem. Spreadsheet nightmares. I'd be surprised if there's anybody on the line that isn't experiencing that now. Has definitely experienced it sometime in the past, but is probably dealing with it now, and all the multiple tabs and interconnected workbooks that may or may not tie together. Again, another domino. So now you've got disconnected workflows. Onboarding process is a great example. Now you're lying awake at night thinking, what did I miss? What did the process miss? Is this going to lead to compliance violations down the line that are just lurking out there? Did somebody not go through the training they needed to for state or federal reasons? Did a policy not get acknowledged? So that if an auditor comes in the door, that's the first thing to look for, is prove to me that you've ticked all the boxes. So what ultimately happens at the end of that? Performance management. And that's, everybody's talking about performance management. How do you create and drive a high-performing organization? And all these systems that are not connected, and the data is not connected and tying together, just creates more and more hurdles for you. How do you connect goals to activities? Leadership team spends many, many hours developing strategies, short, long-term strategies. You got to operationalize those strategies. So that means you have goals. Okay, that's great. How do you know that those goals are being accomplished? How are you tying the day-to-day activity that every worker in your organization is doing to those goals and making sure that they're happening. If you don't have all this data talking to one another, it's very, very difficult. It goes back to your spreadsheet nightmare, or you're just left to every department to fend on themselves and hope that you get to where you want to be at the end of the year. So let's talk about what a connected system, such as what we're talking about today, can help do. Reason number one, increase productivity and consistency. None of this is rocket science. I don't think anybody would say it's rocket science, but it's just reinforcement of what you probably already know and how to tie all the different pieces together. So at Litmos, we always talk about automation, and Keith talked to, all those layers that he talked about in the earlier slide. There's a lot of automation, AI, kind of themes throughout. And from learning, you can do the same thing. So what does learning automation drive? Easy one. Consistent and compliant onboarding of new employees. That's a really simple one, but one that if you don't have a process in place is very hard to actually deliver. This then reduces the administrative resource requirements, going back to having to add resources if you don't have a tied together system. So whether it's automated user provisioning, course assignment, automated escalations, automated reporting, the days of having dedicated trainers are probably long gone. The training responsibility is usually one of 14 other hats that somebody else is wearing, either within the HR department, or it could be decentralized into the various functional departments, sales, marketing, etc. Business users don't have time to do a lot of administration. They need to be focused on what they're good at. Administering a software platform like a learning management system is not one of those. Let's talk about engagement. If you don't have engagement, you're nowhere. And I think Keith would agree with this wholeheartedly. So what are some of the ways that you can drive engagement? Engagement can be driven numerous ways, but what are some of the easy ways? Easy access. Single sign-on connection with everyday apps employees already use. Don't make them learn yet another login site, yet another username password they have to change every 6 weeks. Drives them crazy as it is. Get it integrated inside the apps they're using every day, such as Salesforce.com. Great example of that, right? If you've got your sales organization that lives and breathes in Salesforce like ours do, add another tab onto Salesforce. Don't make them learn how to get to someplace else. Also, just-in-time learning. There's a lot of formal learning that goes on, such as onboarding. But more and more, people want to learn in the moment, when they need it. Don't tell me 6 months before I need it and train me on something, because I'm going to forget it a week later. Give me access to information when I need it, when I'm in a project, when I've been given an assignment. Allow me to quickly get that information so I can learn it and move on. Informal task-based learning. Then you have to acknowledge the makeup of your organization. There's lots of different generations that you're going to have. You're going to have the baby boomers, the Gen X, the Gen Y, the iGen, the most recent, the millennials. They all tend to learn differently, and even within a generation, people learn differently. So you have to enable that. You have to embrace that and allow it to happen. Allow people to learn differently, whether that's through a webinar, traditional classroom training, e-learning courses. There's no one silver bullet. The silver bullet is to offer them all and allow people to access that content, again, in the moment, the way that they want to learn it. Over to you, Keith.
Thank you, Peter. Reason number 3 for integrated learning in HR is, and Peter touched on this earlier, unified version of truth. That single unified version of truth across your entire workforce. And what this can provide is full visibility, more comprehensive reports, dashboards, analytics, and that single people view of all your contributors and their relevant people data really enables you to provide management with information. And that information is on demand. That information is available at the touch of a button. The 360 visibility then provides you a better understanding of your people. Now you can know, and I mentioned this earlier, you can know as much about your people as you do your customers, your financials. And this visibility and this insight can help guide your human capital decisions. Finally, with automated HR and learning, the days of struggling with spreadsheets or trying to reconcile incomplete reports or rekeying data from one system to another, they're over. And as your manual processes are minimized, well, your productivity gains begin to climb. Next slide, please. Reason number 4, performance. So reason number 4 really speaks to why learning should be tightly coupled with performance. And let's start with objectives. You know, as we manage and develop our people, we can now begin to schedule our learning activities in alignment with the key objectives and goals of the organization, of the business unit, of the individual. And as we track these tasks and their progress, that unified view of learning and performance provides us, as coaches and mentors, the visibility to continuously guide and enable our people throughout their journey. And finally, with integrated learning and performance, you now have a big picture in terms of how you might incentivize and reward your people, where you may now consider other development learning objectives in this type of evaluation. Next slide. And finally, reason number 5, risk mitigation. You know, beyond the obvious risk around compliance, there are other risks to consider and that can be mitigated. You know, first, as an organization, are you partnering with market leaders? Are these partners partnering with market leaders? And if not, is there a risk that your software will someday become outdated? Does the lack of task automation increase your risk around compliance, whether statutory or internal compliance? And isn't there a greater likelihood of errors or oversights when manual processes come into play? And the last bullet point, which in my opinion is perhaps the most important, and again, Peter touched on this earlier, that's simplicity. We're in a day and age where our people expect and demand a consumer-like user experience, similar to that of Facebook, LinkedIn, Amazon, your banking software. Engagement, in my opinion, is a result of adoption, and adoption is key to success. Peter, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think that's a great summary. I would reinforce that last one is a great summary of a lot of the comments that we've made over the last few minutes. That everybody's looking for, how do you do more with less? How do you perform at a higher level? How do you get everybody there as fast as you can? And particularly, it really addresses organizations of all sizes. I ran a small company, 20 people, same problems as someone who has 200 employees, 2,000 employees, 20,000 employees, different scales, obviously. It's all around the people issues. How do you get everybody on the same page? How do you worry about, particularly as you get larger, more and more regulations come into play that you have to worry about. And you're making bigger and bigger investments. And how do you feel comfortable that you're making the right investments at the right time, and that people are going to actually use that technology? We're inundated with technology these days, so it's a difficult decision to make, figure out where you invest. But working with people that have been there, done that have are really developed to be market leaders and proven that they innovate and will keep pace with you as you grow. Because you might find something that's great when you're a 200-person company. Is it going to work when you grow to be a 2,000-person company? Because that upheaval, ripping out technology and putting in new technology always creates additional organizational risk. So you want to make sure that there's a kind of a nice, smooth process there. So I'm going to go and talk just a couple of minutes about the relationship between Litmos and Sage People. And we've actually been working together for a number of years. And interestingly, our customers brought us together. initially. We figured out that we had a number of shared customers, and they were working with us independently with our solutions, and got us talking. Says, wouldn't this be great if you guys could work together and develop a way to integrate more over time? So that's a great example of how we're both very customer-driven organizations, and we listen to them. As Keith mentioned, we have a shared platform. Sage People built on the Salesforce.com platform. Litmos is probably one of the deepest integrations with Salesforce of any learning management system on their marketplace, and we continue to enhance that feature functionality over time. So what do we have planned? Everybody, and I know a number of our shared customers, when they heard about this webinar, said, "Great. So when are you going to do X, Y, and Z?" Well, I can't. I'm not in a position to share kind of a detailed roadmap at this point. But the very fact that we're doing this webinar together, I think, is evidence that we have shared goals out there, and we're in the process of looking at more intensive integration and how we can do that efficiently and serve the needs of our customers. So we're definitely looking at deeper data sharing over time. Just don't kind of have a quarterly roadmap that I'm prepared to share with everybody today. But I think the fact that we have shared customers using platforms today is evidence that people are starting to see the value of leveraging these two best-of-breed solutions to reinforce each other's goals. Get that engagement up, get that performance level up. So that's exciting, and I'm sure we'll have announcements out into the future. So that is the bulk of our presentation for today. And look at the questions that we have. So give me a moment while I read that. It says, currently have a HCM system. Do you have any tips for building a business case that we need an LMS system and the value of integration with HCM to present to our decision makers? I would actually, I'm a big believer. Steal other people's ideas. Don't invent ideas if you've got others that you can borrow. So hopefully, the slides that we went through, will give you a lot of that roadmap. That learning automation thing that, particularly if you're talking to a CFO or somebody in finance, right? That's ultimately probably the highest hurdle that anybody has to get over is proving value. And you can prove value, and Keith, I'll let you layer in here shortly. But can you reduce costs, right? And that may be either reallocating resources that you're currently having to do, administrative tasks today to other more valuable activities that will help drive business. It could mean cost avoidance, meaning you don't have to hire somebody because you thought you were going to have to accomplish these administrative overhead tasks. And it's a more difficult argument, but it's an important one, and that's tying your corporate strategic objectives, saying if we want to get from point A to point B in this time frame, that may mean driving certain changes within the organization. It could be a cultural change, it could be just a knowledge expansion, and learning is always going to be a component of that strategy. So if you can make a case of, this is how this is one of the tools, right? It's never a silver bullet, but it's going to be one of the tools that we're going to help advance us and drive a revenue, an X percentage revenue increase. Tying anything to dollars is always a good thing, whether you're talking to anybody in the C-suite or within the finance group in general. Keith, what would you layer on to that argument?
Peter, I would just add, and you mentioned this earlier, but really HR and learning automation is key. I can cite an example of a client of ours down in Austin, Texas, and they experienced 4x growth. So they went from approximately 500 to 2,000 employees. Their HR staff, after implementing Sage People, only increased by 30%. So you're really able to do more with less. And hopefully what this allows for is that it allows HR to focus on some of the more strategic initiatives or value-added services within the organization.
Great. And we've just had a slew of questions come in, so let me just start taking them one by one here. There was a question about the libraries that we have on Litmos, and there is a link off our corporate website, litmos.com, the content marketplace. So that will give you a very detailed listing of the types of content that we have, but it's very broad. It has compliance titles, it has sales leadership titles, it has other corporate compliance, soft skills, Microsoft Office training. It really is quite broad in the types and variety of topics that we cover. But you can go to our corporate website and look at the content marketplace for more details. What percentage of the Litmos platform is used by the education field? I don't have those numbers at my fingertip, but we really have a very diverse mix of customers from an industry standpoint. So, very high concentration, as you can imagine, technology field, but manufacturing, retail, consulting world, really is quite broad in terms of that, and I'm sure education is within that mix. The next one is provide a brief demo of the product. Because of time, we could spend an hour on, each of us could spend an hour on a demo, so we really wanted to focus on kind of the more the thought leadership behind how you can leverage both of our platforms to close those gaps that we talked about. Be more than happy, and that's why I have the information on the screen now. If you're interested in a demo in either Litmos or Sage People, just contact us at those various addresses on the screen. I think there's another question about canned learning packages, so I think I addressed that going back to the content marketplace. Cost is driven by the number of employees. I think it's probably true for the Sage People as well. So again, it's if you have a specific question on that, contacting our respective sales organizations can get you more information. This was probably one for you, Keith. So says, it appears to me your system is designed for HR personnel. You talked about tasks about performance evaluation are done primarily by managers and supervisors. Mm-hmm. HR only comes in at the end of the process. Does that mean company managers should learn how to use it too?
Well, certainly our solution is designed for the entire enterprise. And I touched on this at the beginning, but older HR systems were primarily back office types of solutions, not a lot of engagement or activity with employees and managers. Sage People is really designed for employees and managers. What we're seeing in the market is a lot of organizations are looking to shift the ownership of data out to employees and managers. And again, as I mentioned earlier, to free up HR to focus on more strategic initiatives within the organization. So as far as performance and any other functional area of the solution, that can be exposed out to managers and employees. And it makes perfect sense that when we talk about performance and talk about a self-evaluation or manager evaluation, that's going to happen in self-service, and HR will get involved in the end.
Great. And then another question just popped in, talks about if Salesforce can be customized to work in an education use case. Yeah, I've been amazed about Salesforce and the variety of industries that they've been able to tap into. And I don't have specifics, and maybe Keith, you do have an example about education use case. The flexibility of the platform is the beauty of it, and the ability to adapt it to the business that you're in. So it's one of those, proverbial devils in the details in terms of what you're trying to accomplish. But I've not run into many situations where Salesforce couldn't be adapted to the environment that you're operating within. Keith, do you have any perspective?
I really don't have much to add there, Peter. I mean, yes, Salesforce is highly configurable. I guess, as you mentioned, the devils are in the details, and I guess I'd want to understand what that use case is for education before I commit to an answer. But really, Sage People, and I think you'll agree that Litmos is the same. We are largely industry agnostic. Everyone needs HR. And the fact that the solution is configurable, where certain areas or certain things specific to an industry are required, those can generally be configured in either Sage People or Litmos.
I would agree. So for the person asking those questions, depending on kind of which one of the platforms you're interested in understanding more about in your use case, again, I would ask that you reach out to one of our respective sales executives and describe that use case, and we can work with you on that. I appreciate everybody's visiting with us and hearing what we have to share, some of our experiences, some of our stories that we've experienced with our clients. We look forward to having the opportunity to work with anybody that's interested in learning more. We've had a very, very constructive relationship, our two organizations, as I mentioned, over the last few years. And be happy to sit down with you and understand your needs and come up with ideas on how you can attack them.
Thank you so much, Peter, and thank you to Keith as well. That was a great presentation. We appreciate it. And thank you so much to all our audience members. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us, and have a great day. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.